G'day guys, how's it going? My name is Big Pop and today I'll be bringing you some battles in the Retro Cup. I know the Retro Cup has been over for a few weeks, but these battles were too good not to make a video about. They were sent to me by a fellow content creator by the name of Ripley32. Head over to his channel, he's full of knowledge, he's full of positivity, and you won't regret subscribing. Heading into the first match of our Shadow Swampert into a Unova Stunfisk. This is a pretty good matchup for Ripley here. The Earthquakes and the Hydro Cannons will both do devastating damage. This Mud Bomb is only neutral, so they Mud Bomb and dip into Cofagrigus, and now we feel very comfortable to come in with Frostlass and threaten with the Shadow Ball. We throw the Avalanche bait, it gets a shield, which is really good. We'll see what we do, so we decide just let the Frostlass go down and just entrust the shield to ZAPDOS and Swampert. We go for the Earthquake. This will be an absolute nuke from the Shadow Swampert. Should one-shot KO the Cofagrigus, down goes Cofagrigus, straight to the Shadow Realm. In comes Unova Stunfisk. We're at the Shadow Hydro Cannon. This will be one-shotting if it does land. Let's see if it lands. It lands. Down goes Unova Stunfisk. What do they have in the back? It's a Shadow Alolan Marowak. We feel very comfortable to just build up to one Hydro Cannon and now send in ZAPDOS to start getting some usefulness out of it. In comes the first Shadow Bone. We correctly shield the Shadow Bone. And now we feel very comfortable to just go for this Drill Peck, grab the last shield, and we should just be able to go for a Thunderbolt and secure the match. In comes the Thunderbolt. This should be doing just enough or, just shy of enough damage to take the match. Good game. Heading into the second match of the day with the Shadow Swampert into a Lantern. This is a pretty good matchup for the Swampert. They realize that and they retreat into a Pelipper. We send off the first Hydro Cannon. This should still be dishing some serious damage even though it is resisted, and now we send in the Frostlass. These Powdered Snows are doing neutral damage because of their sub-flying typing, and Frostlass has a really good attack stat, so it's doing some very nice fast move pressure. We will shield up here. It would be such a shame to just let the Frostlass go down when we do pretty much have an Avalanche loaded. This will be either threatening a shield or KOing the Pelipper. Let's see what happens. Down goes Pelipper. Will they come back in with the Lantern? Back comes in Lantern. Now we just need to reach a Shadow Ball. Unfortunately, unable to reach a Shadow Ball, so we will just let Frostlass go down. We have a very healthy Swampert and ZAPDOS in the back, which can take care of the Lantern. In comes Golbat. We're going to start sending off these Hydro Cannons. They will do some very threatening damage to the Golbat. It's not the most tanky Pokemon in the world, although with Poison Fang it is a serious threat in the Great League meta. In comes the first Poison Fang. We feel very comfortable just let that go because it is resisted because of our sub-ground typing. In comes the Poison Fang. We'll let the first one go. We know they're going to reach a second one, so we can no-shield the first. Now we're debuffed. We have the shield for the second one. In comes the first Drill Peck. That gets the second shield. We're pretty much at another Drill Peck, so we will shield up here. The second Drill Peck will allow us to KO over the Golbat. We will overfarm just to have more than enough energy for the Lantern, or in case they switch. They end up switching, so now we're able to send off the Thunderbolt. That should be doing some serious damage. We reach the Drill Peck. I believe this is not very effective damage, but it still should be enough to take out the Lantern after a few more Mud Shots. Down goes Lantern, back comes in Golbat, and we have the Hydro Cannon loaded. This should be securing the match. Good game to the opponent. In comes the Hydro Cannon. Good game. Heading into the third match of the day, we have the Mudboy versus the Mudboy, Quagsire versus Swampert. We're going to send off the first Hydro Cannon. This is a very neutral matchup in my opinion. The Hydro Cannon will get about that health range, and then if they send off the Mud Bomb, I presume, they're not going to send the Stone Edge. Kind of even there, so we're going to switch into the Frostlass. These Powdered Snows are doing a nice amount of neutral damage. We're so spammy with the Powdered Snow and Avalanche. I believe it's a Psycho Cut and Psycho Psy Strike clone, if I do believe correctly. We shield up the Stone Edge because we can farm all the way down. The opponent realizes they're in a farm down range, so they switch into their own Frostlass. We're in the mirror match here. We have to call the Shadow Ball. It's a crunch, so that's a bit rarer to see on a Frostlass. Unfortunately, it wasn't the Avalanche, but we have a Shadow Ball loaded. That grabs the shield. That puts us at a 1-2 shield advantage. We reach the Hydro Cannon. Although this won't be KOing, it will be doing a pretty serious amount of damage into the low red, and we almost farm down. They're forced to throw their energy because they've realized they would have been farmed down. In comes the Avalanche. Now we can Thunder Shock all the way down. We have a shield. Let's see what ZAPDOS can do. Let him cook. Come on, boy, let him cook. What's going to come in? It is the Quagsire, so our Thunder Shocks are doing next to no damage, but this situation does allow us to overfarm. We're going to call the Mud Bomb. Ripley calls the Mud Bomb correctly. Huge call. That allows us to have a shield left for the Noctowl. We're going to send off the first Drill Peck. that does a nice amount of neutral damage. Now, one more Thunder Shock. This should be KOing the Noctowl, shooting it out of the sky with a nice Thunderbolt. Down goes Noctowl. In comes Quagsire. We're going to Thunder Shock all the way down. We change our minds. We're going to send off the first Thunderbolt, and this should be securing the match. Good game to this opponent. Heading into the next match of our Shadow Swampert into an Alolan Marowak. This is a really great matchup. This is a really great situation, I should say. Our Hydro Cannons and Earthquakes will definitely one-shot. We are not threatened by the Bone Club, so we just call that. Really great call. And now we're going to start sending off these Hydro Cannons. Down goes the Alolan Marowak, so the opponent decides to just sacrifice it and save shields for the Frostlass. In comes the Earthquake. This will devastate the Frostlass if it lands. They decide to shield up, so we switch into our own Frostlass. We're going to shield up here, calling the Shadow Ball. We shield correctly, and they have an Ampharos. We are quite threatened by Ampharos. Obviously, the Thunder Punches won't do too much, but most Amphiroses, in my opinion, are running Brutal Swing, which will one-shot KO the Frostlass. We're shielding up here. It's just a Thunderbolt, so unfortunately they baited us, but we do have heaps of energy for the mirror match. In comes the first Shadow Ball. This should be grabbing a shield. Grabs the second shield. Now we're in an even shield scenario. We reach another Avalanche. That is huge. Let's go Frostlass. In comes the Avalanche. That gets that Frostlass extremely low, and they throw their energy. In comes the Shadow Ball. That KOs, but we don't care. We have Swampert in the back to almost farm down. Unfortunately, they do reach a move before the farm down can be fully completed, but we do still have trusty ZAPDOS in the back to take care of business. We Thunder Shock down. Good game. Skipping into the next match with the Shadow Swampert into a Drifloon. This is a pretty good matchup for Swampert. Our Hydro Cannons will hit super hard, and fingers crossed this Drifloon is running Mystical Fire and not Icy Wind. In comes the first Hydro Cannon. That pummels the Drifloon into the low yellow. Let's see what comes in. It's the Icy Wind, which is unfortunate. If they were running Mystical Fire, that would be much better, but we do have the Frostlass to just farm all the way down. Frostlass with energy is one of the most dangerous Pokemon in the entire Great League. In comes Galvantula. That's another very dangerous Pokemon with shields, but unfortunately Galvantula is just so squishy. I personally actually have 4 Hundo Galvantulas, and I wish it was more useful. And I wish I had all the XLs for the Great League, but unfortunately I'm still for the Ultra League, but I'm still building that up. Back to the commentary. That Avalanche absolutely devastates the Spider. In comes Medicham. We have the Shadow Ball loaded. Will they shield here, or will they let the Shadow Ball go through? They shield up, which is really good. Now we're at a shield advantage. Not quite able to reach an Avalanche, but we don't care. We have Shadow Swampert to just absorb all the energy coming from this Medicham. We absorb the energy. Now we switch into Zapdos, and now it's go time. We reach the Drill Peck. This will be KOing that fighting type. Down goes Medicham. In comes the Drill Peck. Down goes Medicham almost. 2 or 3 more Thunder Shocks. We are going to shield up here because it's going to be the Ice Punch that would do some serious damage to a Great League Zapdos. Good game. Heading into the next match of our Shadow Swampert into a Machamp. This is an okay matchup for Shadow Swampert. Shadow Swampert has great matchups against so much of the meta in this Retro Cup. Obviously, it is threatened by grass types, but, you know, like electric types, it has the ground typing, and then the Hydro Cannons just hit everything hard. In comes the Dunsparce. Obviously, we're threatened by both Rock Slide and Drill Run, but we're just going to start spamming off these Avalanches. In comes the first Avalanche. That grabs a shield off the Dunsparce. Obviously, we're taking super effective from the rollout, but we're not really threatened by rollout. It's not a very high pressure fast move. Down goes Frostlass. It does its job. It grabs the shield, does some serious damage. In comes the Drill Run. Now we should be able to farm all the way down. We are at a 1-to-1 shield scenario, but we have boatloads of energy on Machamp. In comes the first Hydro Cannon. That grabs a shield. Now we can almost get to the second one. I think we're going to no-shield here. Yep, Ripley decides to no-shield. In comes the Cross Chop. Now we have trusty old Zapdos to finish the job. In comes Lantern, which isn't the worst matchup in the world for Zapdos. Obviously, these Thunderbolts are going to be hitting for neutral damage. Gets them into the high yellow. We're going to shield up here, just being threatened by the Thunderbolt back to us. And now we almost reach the Drill Peck. Yep, we're going to overfarm here, just in case that Machamp was close to a move, close to the Rock Slide. In comes the second Thunderbolt. Down goes Lantern. Now we just need to get to the next Drill Peck, and this should be securing the win. In comes Drill Peck. Down goes Machamp to the Shadow Realm. Good game. Heading into the next match, we have the Shadow Swampert into a Miltank. This is a pretty good matchup for Swampert. We're much spammier than the Miltank. Obviously, they get to the Body Slams very quickly, but these Hydro Cannons are much more threatening. In comes the first Hydro Cannon. This will be doing some serious damage to the Miltank if it lands. They decide to shield, we get to the second Hydro Cannon, but we do catch the Body Slam onto a Ghost type, so very nice catch by this trainer. They're rolling it away, doing some super effective damage. We are at the Avalanche, we do overfarm, sneaking in a Powdered Snow. In comes the Thunderbolt, that gets us into the low red. We should be able to reach 2 Avalanches in this matchup. In comes the first Avalanche, that grabs a shield. Now we're going to go try and get to the second Avalanche. We are at the Avalanche because that Powdered Snow will register once we shield up here. So we're at the Avalanche. This will be doing some serious damage, probably KOing the Miltank to be honest. In comes the Avalanche, down goes Miltank. We're at a 1-0 shield advantage, which is great for the backline. Both hit super duper hard. It's a Lantern. All we need to do now is get to the Earthquake. Unfortunately, they do a really great catch. They catch the Earthquake onto the Noctowl, but we have ZAPDOS in the back, so they're not going to be happy to see our backline. We build up 1.5 Hydro Cannons. We switch, catching the not very effective Sky Attack onto our Electric type. Now we just need to get to a Thunderbolt, and that should be KOing the Noctowl. We will shield up here, just being threatened by the Shadow Ball. We do want to preserve the ZAPDOS. We're about 2 Thunderbolts. We might as well just send off the Drill Peck. We don't need to send off a Thunderbolt. That'll be a bit overkill, to be honest. In comes the Lantern. Now we have a Thunderbolt ready to go, dishing some serious neutral damage. Gets them into the low yellow. Sorry, I'm having tongue twisters today. In comes the Drill Peck. That pretty much KOs. We're expecting the Surf here. Just the Surf. Down goes ZAPDOS, and now we have a move loaded. In comes the Earthquake, so this will absolutely devastate the Lantern. Good game. Moving into the next match, we have the Shadow Swampert leading all these matches, I believe, into a Frostlass. This isn't the best matchup for Shadow Swampert. Obviously, it does have the option of landing that Earthquake, absolutely devastating the Frostlass, but these Avalanches do deal some serious neutral damage. In comes the first Hydro Cannon. This will threaten the shield, and manages to grab the shield. Now we do almost reach the second Hydro Cannon, but we are going to overfarm. I'm assuming they're not going to shield this one. Oh, they do shield. So now we're at a 1-0 shield advantage, and they switch into a fellow Frostlass. We're going to shield up here, just being wary of the Shadow Ball. In comes a Lantern, so now we're in a great position to just send off the Shadow Ball, and ZAPDOS does fare very well in this matchup, so does the Swampert. In comes Shadow Ball, that lands, dishing some very nice damage. In comes the Surf, we body that quite easily. We get to the Avalanche, the Shadow Ball. This will be KOing the Lantern. In comes Shadow Ball, down goes Lantern. Back comes in their fellow Frostlass. I think they're going to try for the farm down. They realized that they weren't going to get the farm down, so they're going to use some of their energy, which is really good. We want them to just expend that energy. We do not want a Frostlass with an energy lead. In comes the Swampert. This Hydro Cannon will be KOing the Frostlass. What do they have in the back? It's a Medicham. So in comes ZAPDOS. ZAPDOS says, let's go. Let's go, baby. Let's send off this Drill Peck. You know, unleash me onto this Medicham. In comes the Drill Peck. That dishes some absurd damage. We get to the second Drill Peck, and this should be securing the match. In comes the Drill Peck. Good game to this opponent. Moving into one of the last few matches of the day, we will have the Shadow Swampert against I can't even say that Pokemon. I'm getting Arachnoid. I don't really use that Pokemon. I do actually, funnily enough, have a hundo of it. Can anyone tell me in the comments, is it useful in the Ultra League? Because, I'll level 51 if you guys want to see that. Anyway, that Shadow Ball lands, dishes some really nice damage. In comes the Bug Buzz. That should be some not very effective damage because of the Ghost typing. Our defense does fall. We do manage to reach another Shadow Ball after some lag. Looks like some lag, unfortunately. That KOs the Arachnoid. Sorry, my pronunciation is probably ghastly. And in comes a Haxorus. Ooh, a Haxorus in the Great League. Now that's spicy. I'm assuming they're running Breaking Swipe, which would debuff the Swampert. They switch into a Venusaur. We do have 2 shields here, and the Drill Pecks will pretty much one-shot KO the Shadow Venusaur. It's not the tankiest Pokemon in the world. They do have 2 shields, so we're going to send off the first Drill Peck. This is pretty much guaranteed a shield. Grabs a shield. We're at the second Drill Peck. We're just going to throw straight away. This will be grabbing the second shield. Grabs the second shield, and it looked like the Ripley threw on CMP, so he fast move denied the Venusaur. In comes Sludge Bomb. We do shield out. That would KO. Now it's the rest of the Drill Peck. We reach the Drill Peck. This will be KOing the Venusaur and putting us in a very good position. Down goes Venusaur. In comes the Haxorus. This will be KOing, unfortunately, but I think Ripley does have some stored energy. Can we reach the Earthquake? We have the Earthquake loaded. This will be decimating the Haxorus. In comes the Meteorite. Good game. Okay, heading into the next match, we have the Shadow Swampert up against a... Sorry, the battle's just loading right now. Shadow Swampert into a Defense Form Deoxys. So this is an okay matchup. We do want to switch out because we do have a very good matchup here with the Frostlass. These counters are only doing neutral damage because of our sub-ghost typing. In comes the Avalanche, that grabs a shield, in comes a Lantern, now we're at the Shadow Ball. Frostlass is so spammy, god damn. I have to build me a Frostlass. I have one that's single moved to the Great League limit, but after seeing these battles, I'm definitely convinced to second move that bad boy. In comes the Shadow Ball. This will be not quite grabbing a shield, but dishing some serious damage. We're going to no shield here, it's just going to be the Surf. Surf gets us to about half health. Now we can overfarm massively here and go for a Hydro Cannon. This Hydro Cannon will be KOing if they decide to let it slide. They let it through. Back comes in Defense Form Deoxys. I'm assuming they're running Psycho Boost and Thunderbolt. Is that the common moveset for Defense Form Deoxys these days? Yep, in comes the Psycho Boost. Now they're debuffed though, and we leave it all on ZAPDOS' shoulders. Come on, ZAPDOS. Give us an electrifying performance. In comes the Thunderbolt. We're going to shield that up. Now we are at about 2 Drill Pecks. We're going to save the shield. It should just be another Psycho Boost. So now they're 4 times debuffed in their attack. That Defense Form Deoxys is not doing anything threatening. In comes the Drill Peck that gets them extremely low. We're going to overfarm in this situation because we're not threatened by the counter whatsoever. In comes the second Drill Peck. Down goes Deoxys, and it's a Noctowl in the back. Let's go. All we need to do now is reach 2 Thunderbolts, and that should be winning us the game. In comes the first Thunderbolt. Grabs the shield. We do have a shield loaded. Well, left. Hardly have a shield loaded. What am I talking about? In comes Sky Attack. We shield that up. We reach the Thunderbolt, and this should be KOing the Noctowl. In comes Thunderbolt, and down goes Noctowl. Good game. Thank you all so much for watching the video. It was a pleasure to commentate these battles from my friend Ripley32. Please head over to his channel, like and subscribe, and leave a comment on one of his videos. And until next time, have a good one.